Hello friends, welcome to week 4, I think, of the speed run for my new witchy wardrobe, as I'm calling it. I have indeed made a chemise à la Reine that is black and nicely witchy, and also a skirt that will go underneath that, a petticoat. And I'm in the middle of making 18th century, 1870s front closing stays from a red threaded pattern. So if you've missed any of that, I will leave a link to a playlist above so you can go figure out what you've missed and check that out. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on my path of making these stays. The first thing I'm going to do is something super not period appropriate, but it's like mentioned in these instructions, not for this particular purpose, for a different purpose, but I'm gonna try it anyway. I now have to marry a fabric fashion layer to a structural layer. I have learned about this also from a few different people like Luana and Barbara Prinzendorfer. I'm gonna use some spray glue and then also stitch around the edges to do flat lining, but this will like marry them very tightly. I have a little roller thing that I'm gonna roll them out with, so I'm gonna give this a go. I am going to see if it works first before I show it to you on camera, so that way I don't horribly embarrass myself and I'll just cut all this out and we'll never talk about it again. But I'm gonna give this a go and see if it works. I am excited to try it. Okay, I'm checking this just on the straps first because I think this is the easiest way to try this. I laid the linen layer down first, and then I put the layer that I already cut out on top just to make sure that I should still see like the outline on the linen, which I do, which is great, which means I'm gonna cut these out and then I'm gonna attempt to glue them together. Okay, proof of concept worked, except what I learned is don't just start rolling it right on, because then the sticky stuff goes on your roller and then you roll it right back onto your fabric, and as you can see there's goo there. So I'm gonna have to like goo on this and then actually wash this, which sucks. But that's what's gonna happen right now to go fix this. But I have learned, I'm using some freezer paper to guard my table, that this does work, so I'm gonna carry on doing this. Okay, and we are back to pretty clean. I hit it with some WD-40, a little toothbrush action, and then some dish soap, rinsed it out, and then ironed it, and it is good to go again, so. Okay, so these have all been spray glued together. I had a fatality, which you can see right here, which was me having to adjust this so many times that the glue wasn't holding, so I stuck the nozzle under here and I sprayed like straight into that fabric. So, I think after I put boning channels in, it's even that the lines are still even wonky. The problem is when you lay this down, the linen likes to move around. This is starched linen, so this is why I starched the linen. So anyway, fatality there. And I might actually like redraw these lines a little bit to get like at least those ones pretty straight. And then I think after I put the stitching in, I will try and like manually take this out with some WD-40. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's, you know, it is what it is. This is the center back. So, actually these are backwards. This goes here, and this goes here. So, this is in the center back, and this is all seam allowance. So, it would be right in the middle, which sucks, but at least it's on the back. I also did an experiment by gluing a piece of coutil and a piece of the inner lining in, just to see if I could still stick a bone through it, and I can, which means I can lightly spray glue those two pieces together once I get them sewn so that they stay still, and then sew the boning channels and then still be able to stick the boning through, which is exciting. So now I'm gonna go sew around the edge at 1/4 of an inch just to keep everything together regardless of the glue, as well as to stay stitch these tabs here to give them extra strength, because that will be needed in order to split the tabs up. I'm gonna do this on this, and then I will stay stitch the tabs on the coutil as well. Something I forgot to do in the last video. Boop, boop. Oh, those are both done. Okay, everything has been stay stitched slashed, gone all the way around all the edges, and the coutil has also been stay stitched around the tabs. So I'm feeling pretty good about all this. I'm going to sew the stuff together tomorrow and see where we get to. Hello, it is Friday. So the last clip was on Tuesday. Wednesday, I just didn't feel good. So I just stayed in bed, like literally all day. It was great. It's like day off, hanging out in bed. I really just didn't get enough sleep on Tuesday night, I guess that was Wednesday morning, because I went to sleep at like 7 a.m. and slept until like 11 or something. Like something happened. I think there was like people at the door. I don't know. I got woken up anyway. So I think it was maybe Keanu at the door. Yeah, I got woken up. So I didn't get very much sleep. So, and then I couldn't get back to sleep. There was like no nap available for my body. So yeah, that was Wednesday. And then yesterday I spent the day cleaning my house, which needed it pretty badly. And then I hung out with a friend, our bubble buddy, who came over. She usually comes over on Thursdays. So yeah, it's been a pretty chill week so far. So today is sew day. So I want to get these stays sewn together so that I can bone them. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is going through and like just micro truing up all the edges, because when I glued the two pieces together, you know, they're slightly off by like, you know, not even a millimeter, just like so small. So I'm just sort of like cleaning up those edges so they're nice and smooth when they meet up with each other. And then I'm going to specifically mark where I'm gonna sew on these on my sew line, so I can sew right on that line. I can pin them together and sew them together right on that line. Okay, so here's what you do. You stitch the front and front side piece together. And then you do this, and you do it twice on each seam so that the seam is really strong. You do that on these pieces, and then again on the coutil pieces. And then you stitch the front edge piece with an inch seam allowance here to the lining, which is now two pieces. So that essentially makes this part lined. So like it's one big long strip on each side. Then you sew the backs together. You sew the back linings together. And then you essentially sew these two pieces and the lining two pieces together, and the whole thing will be like a giant round tube inside out, and then you just flip the entire thing inside out. And you have a essentially bag lined set of stays. You could actually do it in any order. Like you could do the whole front pieces together and then basically just sew both sides together and you'd be all good too. So there are many ways to bag line it. You don't have to do it with this, you don't have to do it at this seam. Like it doesn't really matter what seam you do it at. I wouldn't do it at the seam. The seam's a little more complicated. Okay, I have these two pinned, marked and pinned on the back side. I completely did it wrong the first time because I saw these lines and I was like, oh, pin on the lines. And then I was like, wait a minute. This is the front of the garment. I know there's markings all over it, but this is the front of the garment. So like, no, I have to like draw the lines on the back. So I did that. And then I pinned these together. I can hear all of you saying, why don't you use those little clippy things? The reason I don't use the clippy things for this is because I am trying to be heckin' precise with this, and those clippy things have a somewhat of a slide, especially with something as beefy and strong. Like this is thick. Like this thing is gonna be 2 C's thick by the end of it. So I really want to avoid slippage wherever possible, and pins, especially like quilting pins in this case, are the way, especially when you're dealing with a slight curve and stuff. It's just what I'm choosing to do. If you want to do it with your clippy things, feel free, but do not yell at me about not using my clippy things. This is what I want to do. Yes, I am going to use black thread, by the way, on these guys. I know it's going to look hideous because you're going to see the black lines going up the back of them and whatever, but like, I could put white thread on the bobbin if I wanted to, but that seems like I'm not ready for that. I just wish I had black coutil, so I don't. I should sit down right now and order some black coutil for when I make the purple stays for sure, and I should order more coutil anyway because I don't have very much. And I plan on making a few corsets soon, hopefully, although one of them doesn't need coutil at all because I have another solution. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sew these. I'm also going to mark and pin the fronts for the inner layer. and then have those done so that I can then put them together. I'm also going to mark and pin the couture layer at this point, at least for this set of things. Same, so that I can then go ahead and line this. Okay, all 4 of these are now stitched. They are actually double stitched. I put my speed down to as slow as humanly possible, so I stitched them that way. And I used my HP foot, which is essentially a walking foot. That's like a feature of this machine, is you get a plate for HP, so it only does straight stitching, and then also it aligns the thread more with how it comes off your bobbin into the machine, so your stitches are ever so slightly straighter. If you look at normal machines, the stitches are slightly zigzaggy, but this one doesn't. It goes perfectly straight. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because it's black on black. So now I'm going to do a whole bunch of pressing here to open these seams up, and then I will attach these guys to each other. Okay, so I have lined them up together. I've done some light pinning. They line up really well, so that's great. That makes me really happy. So generally what happens, for me at least, is the more panels you have, the more complicated the lining situation goes, with like it lining up in the right spots. Like do the seams line up at exactly the same spot? So this one's gonna go well because it's only 3 panels really, so that's kind of great about these kind of stays. I have drawn a line on both of these at 1 inch, and this is gonna be my sew line to attach these together, and then I'm gonna flip and go ahead and run them through the iron so that they are nice and together. I might lightly spray tack them together with that glue so they don't squidge while I'm stitching the boning channels. We'll see. We have a front that has been attached to its lining here, and it's been pressed the other way, but I also flipped it back so it's inside out. Same over here. And then we have 2 back pieces which are not joined at all. They're just laying on top of each other so I can check. This is a little bit larger than the one underneath it, which it's fine, it'll work out. The seam is in the right place, and that's what matters. So here's the part that I can't seem to find it in the instructions, and if anybody knows that I'm completely wrong on this, leave it in the comments. I'm totally willing to eat crow on it. Like, I just can't seem to find it myself, no matter how many times I read the directions. But this is the part I think that, like, is missing, so everyone seems to be confused about it. Is you take this lining piece and this lining piece, and you sew them together. And then you take this outside piece and this outside piece, and you sew them together. So now you have an even longer one big strip. Then you take this lining piece and this lining piece and sew them together, and this outside piece and this outside piece and sew them together, and then you have a big circle. And then you can flip the whole thing out, and it's essentially bag lined. Then that's how that works. So anyone who's confused, hopefully that helps you. Once you get it flipped back right side out and press it, everything then should line up, and then you just sew the boning channels, put the straps on, move on with your life. Ta-da! A big loop, as you can see. So then, if you flip this inside out, after you press these 2 seams, which you need, these 2 seams, which you need to do, then you have a fully formed corset, and you can start making boning channels, which is what I will do momentarily. Okay, for reasons that are possibly obvious, I am stressed out enough about doing this, so I'm not filming me actually sewing these boning channels, but I wanted to show you how I do this. So you do always want to sew from the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top, doesn't really matter, but I like top to bottom. So that makes doing this end a little hard because you have to like roll the corset up. But that's what's great about this machine, is there's so much throat space in here that it's easier to fit it. That's why I love this machine. So the first thing I go through is make sure everything's taut. I mean, it is glued down essentially a little bit. And I do the 2 center back seams. I did these 2 seams. I did the 2 like super narrow stitches on either side of this seam, because this will also be a boning channel. And I did this seam and this seam. This one actually needs to come out because it is too tight, just ever so slightly. So now I have to sit here and pick this out stitch by stitch, because I can't stick a steam ripper really up in there, so that I can restitch it, because it won't fit a piece of boning in there. But that's okay, that's part of what's going to happen here. And as you can see, all these lines are disappearing as I'm touching it more and more, so I'm going to have to keep redrawing the lines. Another piece of information is anywhere I stop before, if it's not from the top to the bottom, I leave tails, because then what I'll do is I'll thread a needle and I'll sew this tail in so it's on the other side, and I'll tie it off so that it can't unravel. And I'll do that everywhere, like here and here and here and here and here, you know, like everywhere it meets, I do that. That being said, I will do as much of this as I can tonight before I get exhausted or tired of it, or like can't, you know, like you start messing up too much. So I will do as much of that as possible. This is a stretch goal for today. The only thing I wanted to do was get this sewn today. So I'm actually ahead of the curve by sewing boning channels already, which is great. I am also doing an experiment to see if I can get this out. And the answer is potentially, or at least better than before. There was a big spray mark here that I let dry and then I took it out. It is definitely a little bit different right there, but it's way less different than that. So after I get all the boning channels in, but before I bone it, I will probably put it through its paces and like, I squirt it with WD-40 and then I scrub it and then I wash it with dish detergent. And then if it's not, you know, fixed, I do that whole process again until essentially it's gone. Okay, so this whole side is done and everything's been tucked in and all the things have been done. It obviously needs to get boned still. This side over here is not yet done. I will probably wait till tomorrow to do this. My shoulders are getting a little sore from this because you have to like kind of hunch and like be super careful about this. So I'll do this guy tomorrow probably. Hello, it is Saturday and I am finally in my craft room. Spent much of today relaxing in bed. It was lovely. I now have my tea, which is Surabaya by Mirage Fair, which is my favorite tea company. It's in France and it is snooty AF. I will tell you that. This is a rooibos. I can't say that word. Rooibos, I think is the right way to say this. And I really like this tea. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so today's agenda is to finish sewing in these boning channels. We got half to go. I've already like remarked this part. I also will want to see what I can do to this, so I probably will completely destroy this thing by trying to take this out. Like that's just the way my life works. So don't be shocked if that happens. I also got out my Dremel, which I have never used. So I'm very excited to try and use it. Looking by the looks of this box, it was made in the, you know, mid-80s. I am hoping to, because I just have this like giant reel of synthetic whalebone, to cut it to size and then shape the ends a little bit with the Dremel. Could I do that with a regular metal file? Yes. Do I have a metal file? Yes. Am I gonna do it that way? No, because I could use power tools. And like, also like, why not try to learn the Dremel while I'm at it, right? So we're gonna give this a go. I hope it looks like there are sanding ones in there already. It says it comes with 101 things. I think a lot of what a Dremel is sanding. There's a couple different kinds of sanders I think in there, so I'm gonna check it out and see what there is to see about the Dremel today, and if it works out, cool, and if not, then I will be metal filing 100 of these like bones. Actually, I don't know actually how many there are, but there are a lot here that I will have to cut to size and stuff, so I think that's going to be a heckin' long process. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna go sew these boning channels and get that done so that we are set up for success on the rest of our day. My only goal is to get these boning channels done today. That was like Saturday's goal. So if I get that much done, cool. Anything else is a stretch goal. So hopefully we'll be able to achieve a stretch goal. That would be awesome. Okay, I know there's going to be some of you who are going to want to see the channels being stitched. I will show you. I have to warn you that the light is turned on bright, so it makes everything on the screen darker, but that's just the way it is. And here you go. Okay, we are completely boned. I just take a damp cloth and pat the thing down essentially, and all those chalk lines go away. I'm gonna go deal with this, which is terrifying because I might completely hose this entire project taking this off. So wish me luck. We'll see if I even get any of it out. It's been in there for too many days at this point, but we'll see. Okay, you can see the steam rising from it because I just ironed it again, but I got most of it out. Like, I know where it is, but I don't know that it's that visible anymore. No matter what, I am going to, and by the way, this is a quick way to dry things. I am going to stop because I do not want to, like, damage the fabric or anything like that. I'm just going to let this, sit here like this. And whatever it is, it's fine. I am gonna though go iron the rest of this to get, there's like little water spots everywhere. And I've been gently dabbing out all the chalk, but it will come out on its own also as life goes on. So I'm not too worried about it. I have zero regrets whatsoever about not hand sewing these. Maybe someday I will be this bored. Today is not that day. Wow. Yeah, no. Also, this is something I don't like about my machine. Is like the bobbin thread gets made into a little ball everywhere. That's not very clean. I would have preferred them to be very clean. Sigh. Okay, I do not have a Dremel. I have a high-speed rotary tool from Black & Decker. Hopefully this works the same. I actually don't even know, like, can you use the same, like, what are these called, attachments on this that you could use? Oh, it has a box. That makes me really happy because I don't have to keep this box. Alright, so I'm gonna break this open and see how this works. It answered my question already. Universal, call it. Exciting. Okay, I figured out how to turn my Dremel on. That was a thing. That actually took a few minutes because I had to figure out how to put this guy on there, which was stressful to say the least. And then I did the end of one bone, and I feel pretty good about how this looked. So now basically I just need to cut a bunch of bones and start curving the edges. So that's going to be a process. Okay, so these are the two center back ones. I have not dremeled them off yet, but I wanted to tell you that if they're curved like this, which is heckin' annoying, you can go ahead and iron them. Just iron them on like synthetic or maybe even silk, and then use a wood block to hold them down for just a minute and they will go completely flat. Okay, so I have done one panel out of 6, and that took about half an hour, so I imagine that this is going to be my evening, but heck yeah, because I got a stretch goal then, so that's pretty cool. The only concerns I have at all are that after I bone this, I do have to get the straps on, and I need some space to sew, and I hope I can get that space, because they go on right here, but we shall see. I'm gonna go grind, I guess, for the next 3 hours. Okay, you can kind of see it. It's fully boned. Everything is all in, so that's cool. Ooh, let's go look at the list. Okay, so we've done this. Oh no. Have we dried? Did we dry out? Oh, this is like my favorite pen. That's a bummer. Okay, so this guy's done. This guy's done. I need to add something, which is attach straps. Okay. I feel like I'm done for today because that was a lot. And I certainly don't want to grommet that, and I certainly don't want to bind it, and I really don't want to deal with attaching the straps right now. Yeah, we're gonna do that tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Hello, it is late o'clock. It is like already 8. So we've had a busy day here, getting up super late. My husband is not feeling well today, and that's weird. So he ate something the other day that just like has made his stomach a mess for a few days, so I feel really bad for him. Anyway, I went in to look at what I had for bias binding today. This is my bag of bias stuff. And I did have a double fold bias tape that's black. Yeah, do I need double fold? I guess, maybe, but this is, if it's double fold, then this is too wide. So I went to Joann and I got a whole bunch because it just came to the point where I didn't know what I wanted to do. These two are twill tape. They're an inch wide, and I would love to use twill tape. Like, I feel like that is the ideal solution. However, going around these with twill tape with no bias sounds like it sucks. So I'm not sure if this is a solution. So then I got single fold bias tape that is half an inch. No, wait. Half an inch. This would be my ideal, because then a 1/4 inch would go on each side of this to unwrap this. Although there are some parts of this where Like, I don't know where it is. Like, it would barely come to the right spot there. I don't know. Anyway, so because of that, I also got 0.875 inch. I don't know if that's a good width. So basically, I want to try all of these. So as you guys may have also noticed, I got this Victoria magazine. It's the January-February issue. This is not a magazine I normally pick up. It is full of just beautiful stuff porn. Like, just, if you want to look at pretty stuff, this is the place for you. I mean, they have like place settings and library rooms with painted ceilings and yummy food, obviously, and flowers, and it's a very, like, what could I say about this? Effeminate magazine, I think, is the word I would use. I would say it's a girly magazine, but there are plenty of boys who might like this, so, and there are plenty of people who are neither boy nor girl who would like this magazine. So I'm gonna say effeminate. Anyway, if you roll on through this magazine, you might find someone you know. So I got this because Christine's in it, and it's stunning. She has a hell of a layout. So she has this page, and this page, and this page, and this page, and I think this page. Just so much amazingness from Christine. So if you want to go look at Christine's pretty things, you can look at them here. She's also been in Italian Vogue. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I'm like, you're in what? Oh, I wanted to mention that I was absolutely wrong before. This pattern does talk about back assembly, so I was like, maybe people don't understand because they don't really talk about back assembly. They do, they just talk about it at the final assembly point, which I get why they're doing that. So they basically tell you to do the front two parts together and then bind it all even. Bind the whole thing, bind the straps separately, put the straps on separately, and then they tell you to put, like, after you're done boning and binding everything, attach the back to the sides. And I get that because it would make boning channels a lot easier in your sewing machine because you wouldn't have to, like, roll it up as much. I mean, you'd have to do the first two panels, but having it be the whole thing in there is kind of a pain. So I get that. Like, it makes the pieces way smaller, and it actually makes some amount of sense why they do it that way. So, but what that will do is make a seam in the back that isn't hidden. So, like, essentially all of my seam allowances are hidden in between the two layers, and the way they do it doesn't have that happen. The back seams will show. I don't know, I just do it a different way. There's no right or wrong way. I encourage you, if you buy Red Threaded stays, follow their instructions. If you don't feel like following them, you can follow mine. Neither one is wrong. Cynthia may have a very specific reason that she wants to do it that way. They might not have machines that have as much throat space as I do. They might. I think, as far as I know, they have Juki industrial machines, which should have pretty good throat space. But it's probably better for them, especially when they're just, like, grinding out corsets, to do it the other way. So that's probably the reason that they're doing it that way. And that's still completely a good way to do it. I didn't find that instruction, even though I read this like I read all of the instructions like 5 times. And it's not really like a lot of instructions, it's just like sew on the back. And I'm like, so I just didn't even see it. I finally found it when I was like really grinding through the instructions yesterday. So I did it differently. That's what happened. So I did it the way that I learned. This is kind of like Victorian corsets go together this way for sure. I guess not all of them do. Some of them have those like lapped seams where you like make the seam by lapping it over and then sewing it down instead of having to do it this way. Anyway, I'm just rattling on at this point. Let me attach these guys. They have it so you basically sew the corset together and then you bind your tabs, you sew them together, like the lining and the actual outside. You sew them together and you bind them, and then you just attach them on the back, and you actually bind your corset first and then you stitch in the ditch to attach these. I'm going to do it a slightly different way. This is the way that they do it in the JP Reine pattern, and I feel like it's a little bit cleaner. That's arbitrary. The way they did it though makes it significantly more adjustable, because you could just real easy take them right back off, stick them on a different way, and then put them right back on. So there's large intelligence to the way they did it, but I'm going to do it a different way just to be contrary apparently. Okay, here's how this goes down. you go right sides together. I drew the line in that I'm going to sew on, which is 1/4 of an inch, which is the equivalent of sinking at 1/2 inch because it's 1/4 inch down and 1/4 inch back up. Logic. Anyway, so you do that so that when you flip, and you do it on the front with this one and on the back with the lining all at the same time, so that when you flip them back up, they match. And like there's pins in here, so it's obviously not flipping all the way up, but it'll flip up and just be part of it. And then when you bind it, you can just bind straight up into it. Okay, this is a good way to show you what I'm talking about. So mine is just going to become like a seamed, but a part of the back going up. There's a stays like stays. There's stays part. See how the back, like you can see that they bound the back, and it's bound all the way around here. And then how the strap just kind of comes out of it, and it is also already bound. So this is like 2 separate pieces, and this is cool because it allows you to adjust it more, so there's good reason for that. I'm going to stick with this for now. Okay, here's what it looks like when that's done. I did sew this seam twice because strength, and then I flipped and ironed them both, and then I ran a little stitch around the edge just to hold them together so that they are one strappy strap. This creates support on the inside and the outside, so it's a very like sturdy method of attaching things. So I'm going to do that to this one and to the other one. Okay, we are starting grommeting in an attempt to avoid binding, the thing we all avoid. So I have to do the little tippy things, and then here, and then of course down these two. I can spiral lace these. I think actually though I'm going to do some crisscross lacing grommet setting for these, just because I find that statistically easier to do. It's not actually easier. There's no reason for it. I'm just doing it this way, I think. I am dumb and messed these up. Remember last video when I was like, oh yeah, I need to put these on, like take a chunk out of them because they are too big right here? I didn't do that. So I need to do that. They're already grommeted, so that's gonna be a problem. Because normally I would have to unpick this entire thing, separate them out, flip them back over, and then put them back on. So cool. I don't really know what I'm gonna do here, but I'll figure it out. This is fast becoming a chaos vlog. Okay, so I took it off. I just hacked off a piece. It needs to be a little shorter anyway, so I hacked off a little bit extra on this side and then a whole bunch on that side. Just randomly, we're gonna see how that works. And I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this line just the once, and then try this on again to like see that it works. And if it's good, I will do the same thing. I will take off the other side too. All I did was unpick like basically all of these stitches to like here. So as you can see, it's still grommeted together, and then just sort of like flopped it out of the way. It'll be fine. Okay, yes, that totally worked. It's much better. I could have even gone a tad more. Like I might do that in the green ones, we'll see. Anyway, so it's much better. I am going to do a second stitch, and then I'm going to stitch this back up around, and then I'm going to do the same operation to this side. Okay, so we have the straps and the holes done for that. I also did one side, and this took a while. It's not a fast process, and this is also going through like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers of this material. So that's just, it's so thick. Like these grommets can barely hold on to this. I wonder if there's like longer necked grommets. I should look into that. Anyway, so this is relatively hard on my hands because I have to like drive through that much. So I'm gonna stop doing this now, and I think I might go just start the binding process, at least on the top. The tabs are gonna be the last thing I do. But I'll go start the binding process on the top to get that going, because I think that's something productive I can do right now. Hello, it's Wednesday. Remember last vlog when we were saying, wow, when it rains it pours around here? Yeah. Okay, so one, my trip to Seattle is obviously canceled because I would be in the car right now if that was not canceled. So all the people are just gonna see along the way to Portland and back down. I am not visiting because we're in Omicron. And that just seemed like the responsible adult thing to do. The reason it's Wednesday and not Monday, the last clip was Sunday, is because I spent the last 2 days dying in my bed. Not literally dying, but you know, could have been on my way. I had to go to urgent care on Monday. There was all kinds of gross things that I'm not going to talk about that happened. So I've been literally bedridden for the last 2 days. I am still not feeling 100%, but I am kind of itchy to get some stuff done and tired of being in my bed. Like my back hurts because I've been in my bed for 2 days. And the antibiotics are starting to kick in, and the Zofran, for those of you who don't know, is the most miracle drug of all. It is a anti-nausea medicine that is absolutely fantastic. It just sort of like fizzles your nausea away, and when you are nauseous, whew, it's good stuff. You're just, because when you're nauseous, like the only thing you want in the entire world is to not be nauseous again. And like when you stop being nauseous, you're just like, this is the best feeling. Even though everything else that's wrong is still wrong, you're still like, I am not nauseous anymore. Everything is fine in the world. So I'm super grateful to not be nauseous anymore is really what I have to say here. Okay, so let me show you where I got to on Sunday, and then I am gonna take this and go do more of it, is essentially what's gonna happen. Wow, this got a lot of cat hair on it. Cool. Well, that's a heck of a thing. I should look at my camera when I'm filming. Okay, we got one side of black grommets on. Yes, you can get black grommets. Someone was being like, whoa, you can get black grommets? Yes. Okay, so I got all of this up one strap one side. Just on the front side, I still have to like pull it over and stitch down the back side of just the top. I'm not even to the hard part yet. So I'm gonna go try to finish just this. Like if I can just get this front side stitched down, I'll be extremely pleased with today. So obviously this vlog is going to be a little bit late. I know I was like weekly vlogs, but when you get sick, you get sick. So that's what's going to happen. And we're at the home stretch of this, so I don't feel that bad about it. I should be able to get this done. You know what? I'm not even going to say that because I don't want to jinx this. I'm just gonna do this as quickly as I can while still being very like gracious and careful with it. Okay, report card is that not only did I get the front put on, I also turned around and got the back put on. I sewed yesterday for like 7 hours, which means binding this top edge took me 9 hours because I had already been sewing for 2. There is one flaw, like this area right here is very difficult to do. So this is fine, but this was sewn a little bit too low, I think, and therefore it comes down a little bit farther, but you know what? It's on my back, and it is those imperfect stitches that make these things perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do these grommets over here and make sure that they are lined up and perfect, and then I'm going to go bind this. I also need to cut the tabs. I don't cut them until right before I bind them because I'm like, no thank you to having to deal with that. I did go to Joann today and get some more of this because I thought 4 yards certainly will be enough for this. It is in fact not. This top is 2 yards according to this, apparently, because there's only a yard left. No, it's 3 yards because there's only a yard left. I'm like, how is this 3 yards? I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand how like physics works, but whatever. Anyway, I got another one, which says it's also 4 yards, right? Like I'm not hallucinating that. We'll see. Okay, I'm having such a hard time, but I think I had just a little breakthrough. So I've had a hard time with all of these, actually. These ones are just fine. Let me see if I can zoom in. This is what I grommet that's set just fine. Looks like this little interior edge right here is like curled over, catching this grommet. Everything's cool. This over here is so thick that it can't actually get through all this fabric, and so these aren't really curling over. Like, ugh, that's not good. And fabric is getting caught. So I was like 3 from the end. I have 2 more left to go. And my buddy Hannah was like, hey, doesn't Red Threaded use just punch theirs? And like, now that I think about it, I think they do. Because I'm like, this is their pattern. Don't they have the same problem? I think at one point I remember, forgive me if I'm slandering, but that you really don't want to punch through your fabric if you can possibly help it, because the threads lose their strength. It's better if you can awl them out of the way so that the thread goes like doop and then around the hole and then back. Like that's a way better plan. But this is just too thick. It's just too thick. If I do the purple ones, what I'll probably do is like actually cut out. So the seam allowance comes to about here. And what I probably would do is on the interior side, cut out 2 or 3 layers. And I think that would help a lot. So, but for these last two and for this one, for this one I did it the hole punch, and I think I'm going to do that again for the last two because they're going in way easier if I do it that way. Anyway, I have one of these, and so it just like you push on it and it turns as you push on it, and it just essentially drills. That edge right there is super sharp, and it drills a little hole. So I have done so, and I don't love it, but I'm willing to run with it for right now because this is just too thick. So you can also get hole punches that are for this, which I might consider doing also, but I would love it if this wasn't like the norm. Okay, so the last thing I need to do is bind these tabs. So I need to cut them too. So the first thing I want to do is definitely go through and like true up all these edges and make sure that they're pretty close. I want to iron them down, that kind of stuff. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do some of that, which means I need to clean off this table so I can put my ironing mat down. I forgot about ironing mats, and you can barely see it right there, but I ironed just on the mat, and then I was like, oh my god, why is the plastic burning? Right, because I'm stupid. And I didn't put my wool mat down. Anyway, I need to iron these flat so that I can true them up properly, and then start the clipping and binding process, which will take me for freaking ever, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, so it's not probably going to get done today, but hopefully tomorrow. Okay, so while cleaning, I decided to clean up my pattern because, like, I don't need that anymore. So I decided to put some pattern notes onto the instructions telling me that the straps need to be shortened and also to thin out the layers right here. Other than that, I didn't really have any notes so far, so we'll see if I get any with more try-ons and stuff, but I like to leave myself notes if I can so that I do not have to reinvent the wheel, because I have been known to make the same mistake twice and be like, oh yeah, I made these 3 years ago and I did this that time too. That was really dumb. So this is what I'm doing. So some of these are done. For those of you who want to know what I'm doing exactly, I'm literally just taking my iron and like, because there is boning in here and it's plastic, so I don't want to like melt it, but I do want to get this completely flat, and then I'm trimming them. So that's what's happening right now. And then I will go ahead and cut these slits up so that I can make tabs. Okay, tabs are cut. I feel good about them. I'm gonna go start trying to bind them. I mean, I get why people hate binding stays. Like, even the top part. Okay, so you can't pin it to anything. It's not a straight line. You have to like keep shifting everything back and forth, and you have to like make sure you're at exactly the right spot all the time, because if you're not, you like the margin of error, like I'm talking about like, you know, a quarter of an inch here. So like the margin of error isn't great, especially when we're talking about tabs, like nightmare to try to pull them through and then you don't have enough on the back. Like what do you even do, right? So that sucks, but also because they're stays and they're boned, you can't just like fold the thing up and like get it into the right position so you can sit there and just keep working it, like make it small and turn it, keep turning it so you can go around the tabs. But like you can't do that because they're just like, so you're always working as far away from you as possible. I was in like the weirdest positions yesterday when I was doing these, like, and I was just doing the top part, like, ugh, it's not a great experience. So if you haven't bound stays before, like this is not your don't do it. Like it is worth it to get some cool stays, and every time I do it I get better. So like if your first ones suck, they suck. Like honestly, don't do them in silk like I did. My stays are actually getting ruined. Like the bones are starting to pop out and stuff on the original stays that I made, so I just need new ones. So this is great. I actually should make 3 pairs. I should make the black, I should make the purple, and I should make white ones because I really need a pair of white ones. Anyway, every time I do it, I do get better. So you will get better at it. And there's like a certain feel for how to do the curves and stuff that you'll just get over time. There's like articles on it, there's videos on it, like everybody's talked about this. So like, don't be super discouraged by me saying this, but it is a giant pain in the ass. Like this is not simple and it is not fast. So like Red Threaded has like these how to do it by machine instructions, and I'm like, I am not there. I do not feel like I am proficient enough with my machine. Also because I did them and they're all one big thing now, like I think if they were smaller pieces that would be a lot easier, so I get that. But like right now I would like literally swing this around and like just knock off all this stuff constantly because the stays are, you know, stiff, so they're like I mean, even when I was trying to do the straps, like it was kind of funny, like everything was getting knocked off. Anyway, that all being said, like it's not hard. I mean, it's like it's like all things with corsetry, it's just tedious, so don't be too discouraged by me whining. I am just currently whining about it because I'm about to go do it and I don't really want to, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Oh, before I do that, let's do some board. Oh, my purple marker came back. I grommeted my stays and I attached the strap. Okay, so we're good. Is this good? It's not as strong as it used to be. I wonder how maybe I can hydrate it. Anyway, I'm on this last thing and then I'm done though, so let's get her done. Hi. It's Saturday. They fit and they're done. I'm very excited to tell you this. It's Saturday night, pretty late. I have officially spent 11 and like 5, somewhere between 15 and 16 hours binding the bottom. Like that's just how long it freaking took me. But the binding I'm super happy with. I will take these off at some point and show them to you. I was planning on coming back in here tomorrow. It's like super late, so I was going to just show you them quick in the mirror to show you like, hey, I finished, yay, woo woo. But then also I'll come tomorrow and I'll like do close-ups on them and put them on my mannequin so you can like actually see what they look like and stuff. So don't worry, I'm not gonna cheat you out of looking at these, but yeah. Okay, so this is how they fit. I think they look great. The tabs are bound. I love how the tabs are bound. They feel really good. They feel very supportive. They do not push my stomach like down crazy like my corsets do. Like I don't have a giant blob at the bottom, which is really nice. These are very comfortable. I highly recommend these stays. They're very nice. I think the synthetic webbing also adds to that. The straps probably could have been just a smidge shorter because they are still like a little loose, but they're also like not really falling off. And as I move around, I can feel them. So like they are on me pretty good. So I feel pretty solid about them. They're just like next time I might make them just a smidge shorter. Oh, this one's coming loose. I bought some black silk ribbon in order to tie them up, but they still fit pretty good. Like I could close this gap pretty easily, and I am full. So like I ate dinner not very long ago. So I feel like if like this gap is not as snug as it could get. So yeah, I don't feel like I need to make a stomacher. Let me show you the back. So that's the back fit. I think they fit really well. The tabs lay really nicely. The only thing is like you can see right there, that's where I like already cut out a bunch. I probably could cut out more is what I think. You can see it right there, kind of like it definitely gapes just a little bit. I'm very proud of these. I think they look amazing. I think the binding looks really good. I love the linen look. Like it's spectacular. My husband was like, these are your practice days? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you should ship the prototype. And I'm like, no, I actually need more. Like I need ones in other colors. I need white ones to go under white things and black ones to go under black things. And so like, yes, I like these witchy stays for sure. But like, yes, they're my practice days, but also I'm heckin' proud of them. Anyway, I'm gonna come back tomorrow and I'll show you them like on the mannequin. We can look at the binding pretty close, do all that kind of stuff. So let me do that when we got some more light. It looks like the bat signal. Looks like a giant bat. Okay, well, she's done. I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to not be hand binding anymore. 29 hours is just a lot of time to be hand binding something. Why did it take that long? I have no idea. I'm just slow. I watched, ooh, let's see. I watched Interstellar. I watched The Martian. I watched all 3 Batman movies. Like, sorry, there are a lot more than 3 Batman movies, but the 3 Christopher Nolan ones. What else did I watch? I watched all the new stuff that had come out. I watched Encanto. I don't even remember. I watched all the new movies that I had just watched, like that came out in like December timeframe that I watched like on HBO or Disney or whatever, that, you know, stuff that came out that or I had gone to at the theater. Like I actually went to the theater to see Encanto, so I saw it at home and just sobbed my eyes out. Like the last 20 minutes of that movie just like break my heart every time and also repair it back into its own. I watched a thing about how, for those of you who've seen this movie, this is interesting, and for everybody else, it's not. The end of the movie in Spanish is slightly different than it is in English. Also, if you haven't seen this movie, you might want to skip the next like 10 seconds because I'm going to say something that's potentially a spoiler. But anyway, at the end of the movie, they give her that doorknob and they say, "We made this for you." But in Spanish, it's more like the house made this for you. So that was like her door that she never got. So anyway, it's more meaningful in Spanish. I'm like, can I watch this in Spanish dubbed back to English? Because that would be better, actually, in some ways. Anyway, I watched a ton of movies while I did that. It's largely because you can't, like I said, you can't anchor it, so you gotta like just keep flipping it back and forth constantly, and I'm taking tiny little stitches. I've got my like full headgear thing on, like taking these tiny little stitches that look huge in the headgear, but they're totally not. But I'm really proud of the way that the binding came off on the tabs. Like all of the bends look really good. They all look very stable. They're all sewn really well. Like it's very strong and I don't feel like it's gonna come out. Like my other stays are sketchy. So every time I do this, it's better than the last time, which is good. And it takes somehow longer every time, but I think that's okay. I was also I was using a really thin needle because I wanted it to go through the layers better, but that also means that like you can't push it as hard or as fast because it will bend the needle. And I had one needle bend to like this. Normally I like a bent needle. I'm the weirdo that's like, oh, when you bend that needle, that means it's broken and it's good. But it got to the point where it was like curved and I was like, okay, this isn't working anymore because it kept flipping the other way. If it would just curve and work in my favor, that would be cool, but it's too thin. It would never do that. Things I would change for next time. I would definitely make those straps shorter. I'm gonna do that for sure because they meet up and that's not good. I should make them shorter. There is some potential in the future for me to actually change that on these, which is terrifying, but essentially what I would do, I think, is I'd have to take all of this binding off up and around to about here, and then I would cut in this entire thing. I would recurve it right above this grommet, regrommet it, and then rebind the whole thing on both sides. So essentially, the only binding that would get left on would be this middle part, which, to be fair, this angle is the hardest one to do here, so that's not that bad, and the top is a lot easier to bind than the bottom, but I'm not there yet. I'm going to bask in the glow of these being done. Anything else I would do? Not at the moment. I want to wear them for a while. That's why another reason I'm not going to like just go ahead and make the purple ones like immediately. I actually want to wear them for a while and see how they actually feel once they're broken in better and the boning is molded to my body and stuff, and see how they feel. This guy right here comes up to where I think it should be, but I've heard people having to move this over before, so I'm kind of worried, like, did I not move it over and it's not fine? I don't know. So I want to check that out, and if I have to move it over, I'm not really clear how to do that because this is part of the armhole, and the armhole actually feels good. But maybe it would scoop more? I don't know. Anyway, so doesn't matter. I like these. I'm gonna wear them. I think they're beautifully made and I'm really, really proud of them. Like, I don't usually like... Is that true? Maybe it's not true. Maybe I am really proud of a lot of my stuff. But especially recently, I've been pretty proud of a lot of my stuff. But I am glad that I took my time on on these because I think that I am really proud of them, and I think they look like the stays that I used to see on people's Instagram pictures and be like, oh, those are beautiful. Someday I'll make stays as beautiful as that. So I'm glad I've got a pair now. I have a friend who was like, are you gonna hand sew them the next pair? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, it took me 29 hours to bind those. Like, imagine if I had to sew all those channels. No, absolutely not. No. Mm-mm. Anyway, okay, so also apologies for this video being like a week late. I had to go to the urgent care and I took several days off because of that, and there was something else that came up in the middle of it that made me just like be like, nah, it's gonna wait. And that's okay. I really wanted these to be like weekly vlogs, but I think every now and then there's gonna be just one that, you know, takes a little bit longer, and it does that because life stuff comes up, and it's not like, I mean, I was waiting for this to be done for sure, but also, oh, this does answer the question about whether or not I could have made stays in 5 days. I could not have made these stays in 5 days. I mean, maybe if I did nothing else, maybe, but I could never have bound them in the way that I did. Like, they would just be a hot mess. Like, no, not my jam. Oh, one other thing that I think I might do next time, weirdly, is fray check all the edges before I start binding. I think that might help. They weren't coming out too badly, but they do, to some extent, you know, fray out a little bit, especially the linen part. You know, even the coutil was fraying just slightly, so I think fray checking might help, and it might make it even more secure. That might be cool. There's something else that I might do later to these, which is there's all these sewing line stitches, and you can see some right here that I sewed. And then my binding was slightly smaller than what the sewing line demanded, and so I can see them here. You can also see them on the tabs, and like right here you can see the sewing line stitches here. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to pull them out. I don't think anyone is going to look at those except me, so, but oh, you can see how good the turn is. The turn is so good. I love it. I think they all look really good. This seam right here is by far the hardest to turn. It's like the most severe angle. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of all these turns. Like, I think they look really good. Anyway, okay, I think next week I'm probably going to reorganize my whiteboard because I started taking stuff off of it that has been done. Like, I actually got a bunch of new business done. Like, you can see all these things that I took off with this speed run. So I think I'm gonna do a little bit more whiteboard reorg planning, deciding what I still want to do. Like, do I still want to do Regency Super Mario Brothers? Maybe that's something I don't feel like I need to do imminently anymore. Stuff like that. So I might go through that for sure. I think I'm also going to work on some UFOs and some smaller projects. I think I'm going to try to see how many things I can do maybe in the week without doing some massive project that is tedious. That sounds like a lot of fun, just doing small things and getting things done. I also need to do the clean out project on my room here, so that's gonna happen soon. People keep asking me, for some reason, I've gotten like 3 questions recently about my ironing board and whether or not, like, they're like, oh, couldn't you just take that out? And even though I asked people not to say anything about where they think I should put this, they're like, could you put that in that space? Like, get a credenza? I'm like, first of all, no, that's way wider than this hole is. And second of all, no, I use my ironing board. I know it looks like I just use it for storage, but like, you can't iron circular things on this wool pad. You still need an ironing board. Like, you can't get away from having an ironing board. Like, skirts and stuff still pretty much need an ironing board. I mean, you can do it flat. It's not as, just trust me, it's better on an ironing board to some extent. And I actually do use it and like my ironing board, so no, that's not going to go anywhere. Anyway, I will see you next week with another vlog where I hopefully get a whole bunch of things tidied, either emotionally on the board, emotionally within my costuming collection, or emotionally within this room. It will be an emotional experience. I'll see you guys next time. Leave me, as always, notes about what you're doing, what you're listening to, what you're watching. I finally gave in and just ordered The Martian, read by Will Wheaton. Those long-term viewers will know I'm Will Wheatoned out. But I watched the movie again and I was just like, oh, this movie's so good, and I love Andy Weir's writing so much that I bet this book is so good. So I just got it, but I haven't listened to it yet. What have I been watching? I watched a million movies this week. That's what I did. So yeah, and I re-listened to a bunch of my podcasts that I wanted to like just ruminate on. Anyway, let me know what you guys are listening to. All right, see you guys next week. Bye.